Is that a nice introduction? It wasn't funny, I didn't tell any jokes this time. Okay, maybe don't need to. Already mentioned many times about the meditation. The precepts gives you a sense of safety. The place you're meditating gives a sense of, comfort. And the past you've been doing or the past experiences and some of the talks I've given hopefully give you the sense of, you know what the right view is, the right view enough not to do anything, not to control. The reason why we don't control, and then one should always know that how the Buddha taught anatta, non-self, not me, not mine, not a self. And when the Buddha talked like that, sometimes it's easy to say, but sometimes you just keep contemplating it. The most important part of that, when I was contemplating anatta, was the not mine. And there, if you ever look at the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, there the Buddha states specifically, if things like the body was yours, you'd be able to tell it what to do. So that was the meaning of ownership, is you had power over it, control over it. But he was arguing, first of all to himself, and then in this second sutta which he gave to the first 5 monks, because the body is not yours, you may ask it, oh body, please get healthy. Oh nose, please don't get itchy due to hay fever. Oh body, please don't get sleepy. Can you do that? Can you? Oh body, please don't have to go to the toilet again. And on just one part of that teaching, that quite often on the rains retreats, there were some people there was one lady in particular that she thought she had a heart attack. So she went to the hospital to check up, and the people said, no, it's not a heart attack, you're dehydrated. Why come you don't drink? Is there no water at Jhana Grove? And the reason she didn't want to drink is because when she was meditating, she wanted to meditate a long time. If she drank water, she'd have to go to the toilet. And that feeling in her bladder disturbed her. So she decided to drink less water so that she could meditate longer. Not a heart attack at all. You try to control this body, but sometimes you can't. So because of that, this is what I said, look, you have to drink water and learn about anatta. And this body is not under your control. That was just a body. Vedana, and I keep calling that experience rather than feeling. Feeling is part of experience, but experience is not part of Vedana. Experience is Vedana. Perception, and then the sankhara, your thoughts. So if the sankhara was yours, you'd be able to control it. Can you control your thoughts? Of course you can't. So you let them go, instead of trying to be a control freak. Your consciousnesses, can you control them? And remember, that sutta was the only Dhamma which I contemplated when I did my 6-month retreat in silence, so many, many years ago. And that was a brilliant teaching. And you kept on focusing on just that and nothing else, for 6 months, until it really got into you. If these things don't belong to me, it's a waste of time trying to control them. They'll just frustrate you. So you stop controlling them. When they stop controlling them, then they become peaceful. At first it doesn't make any sense to you. Why is it? When the donkey starts chasing a carrot, he can never catch it. Why is it when the donkey stands still, the carrot comes towards the donkey. At first, it makes no sense. But there's one other story. I should have said it at the time, but I'm going to say it now, obviously. Now's the only time you have. And that was the little novice monk, because we were talking about novice monks this morning over breakfast. No, I better not tell that story though. But anyway, there was one of the novice monks with Ajahn Chah a long time ago. And honestly, sometimes Ajahn Chah would give such long teachings. Not just, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, just keep on talking. Sometimes there were some beautiful parts to that, really inspiring. But often, it was, when is he going to finish? It was very reassuring to be taught by a famous teacher on how to bore senior monks. In other words, you can't expect any teacher to give inspiring talks. So inspiring, every 5 minutes you're just so happy you never want it to finish. And at the end of the talk, you just carry on, please do more. All the years I've been giving Dhamma talks, no one has ever stood up at the end of the talk and said, encore, encore. I've already had enough. And anyway, this is a beautiful story, one of my favourites. Ajahn Chah was giving one of these really long talks, hour after hour after hour. And there was a little novice in the audience. And this little novice monk was kind of thinking, it's okay for these, grown-up monks. They got some endurance. They're really into this Dhamma. As for me, I've got nowhere else to go. And so, he was getting more and more bored. And he started thinking, this is what he told us afterwards. He started thinking, when is Ajahn Chah going to stop? When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? And he kept on repeating those words. When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? And Ajahn Chah had shown no sign of stopping at all. And then the novice, only a little fellow, had some insight. Instead of saying to himself, when is Ajahn Chah going to stop? He just turned it around. When am I going to stop? And then the novice stopped. It's one of the most wonderful stories, because when he stopped, the next thing he noticed, he didn't fall asleep. He went into a very deep samadhi. When he opened his eyes, it was all the monks had left a long time ago, several hours earlier. They'd bowed, picked up all their stuff to go back to their kutis, and he stayed there. And when he opened his eyes, it was in the middle of the morning. He'd missed the alms round, missed the food. He didn't mind at all. It was his first experience of deep meditation. He stopped. That's a beautiful story, because as a novice he had no indication he's going to get a deep meditation. He was criticizing Ajahn Chah. When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? So if that ever happens to you when I'm giving my talks, and you think, when's he going to stop? When's he going to stop? When's he going to stop? You're very close. Why do you think it is that a compassionate monk like me gives such long talks or long Q&As in the evening? I'm trying to help you. You start to think, when's he going to stop? When's he going to stop? Turn it around. When are you going to stop? There's a kind of a beautiful little story. And of course that changed the little novice's life. You realise that these things aren't under your control. In the right conditions, and you take the opportunity, And then you get these wonderful states of samadhi, of stillness. But anyway, with the anapanasati, if you have all that Dhamma, and you have enough understanding of Dhamma, understanding enough about the importance of the present moment, the importance of silence, stillness inside, in other words, not sort of measuring anything, and then it makes it easier to let go, kind of like you're on the edge. So when actually you do this anapanasati, it's a nice thing to do, it gets you even closer. First 4 stages, you just become aware of your breathing. And you can add a few extra things to that breathing, like the counting. Where's he gone? Treasurer. No, not treasurer. Anyway, he disappeared. Oh, there you are. Because I used to, that first teacher I had, someone else, he's still going, that teacher, and this is what he used to do counting with the breathing. And a lot of times, people, now you're very interested now, you're paying attention. Why? It's because this is something you can do. And people like to do things. It's a kind of doing which stops doing eventually. So you just start counting with the breathing. And of course I sort of change that around a bit, because it's nice to try and make it more appropriate. So what I used to do in those early days, when I first came to Perth, I started changing that method into counting the breath. Breathing in 1, breathing out 1. Breathing in 2, out 2. In 3, out 3. In 4, out 4. In 5, out 5. In 6, out 6. In 7, out 7. In 8, out 8. In 9, out 9. 9 breaths. And then start again at 1. In 1, out 1. In 2, out 2. In 3, out 3. 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. 7, 7, 8, 8. And then 1 to 7. Then 1 to 6. Then 1 to 5. Then 1 to 4. In 1, out 1. It's amazing how much you're paying attention now. When you give stages and clear instructions, people love it. In 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, in 4, out 4. Then in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3. In 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 1, out 1. And that's one whole cycle of 45 breaths. And you've got to be aware of what you're doing. Otherwise, if you're a little bit tired or a little bit restless, not clear, I found out I was going in the middle of this meditation, in 32, out 32. You forgot to stop. I think, where was I? And it became quite frustrating. And it's also, for me anyway, I found it didn't work that much. If you want to play around with that and try that, fine. But there's many other ways of counting the breath. I like just, instead of counting it, just being with the breath. And just being so still, or so peaceful, the breath comes to you. I was like the donkey chasing my breath. So, but eventually you get to know the breath as it goes in, the full awareness of the breath. This is actually where you asked a question yesterday about, are you supposed to be watching the body? Oh, what are you supposed to be watching? And there's a phrase in the third factor of Anapanasati, to be aware of the Sabakaya Patisangvedi, which is the full body of the breath. They mention the word kaya. And sometimes people start to think, oh, that means our body. The word kaya can mean the body, as I said yesterday at question time. But in this particular case, it means you're fully aware of the breath from the very beginning to the very end. See it pause, and go back again. Every moment of the breath. And you're with that, which means you're not disturbed. It's a full awareness. You're not aware of anything else. And then you calm that bodily feeling. You're noticing the breathing through the perception of touch, through the fifth sense. And to make it go even more peaceful, you don't do this on purpose. You don't say, right, this is done now I can move on to stage 5. That's sometimes people used to say, what stage are you on? And a lot of times you ask that, with a lot of sincerity and humility, oh, I'm stage 4. A stage 4, that's all you're on? Oh, come on. Like this one gentleman years ago in a retreat. I wasn't teaching this retreat, I was just one of the attendants. And I asked him, how are you going? And he said, oh, it's terrible. So in this retreat, all I can do is first jhana, I just can't make it into the second jhana. And I thought, what the heck are you talking about? And honestly, if you've experienced a first jhana, a real first jhana, you're blissed out of your head. That's more than enough for this retreat. There's so much joy and peace and happiness and so much depth. First jhana is so satisfying. If you get a second jhana, wow. But even these first jhanas, they are what the Buddha called uttari manusa dhamma. They're beyond normal human experience. Very few people experience these things, the real things. And it always comes with an afterglow. Wow, that was so cool. And I've already mentioned that you won't be able to, if you get a jhana today, or this morning, you won't be able to sleep tonight. Too much energy. You don't feel tired. If ever that happens to you, you get a jhana, wow. And then you think, should I go to sleep or should I carry on? You can't go to sleep, but still go to bed. Lay on the bed. You won't fall asleep, but rest the body. And that will give you confidence that this is safe. Be mindful of the body in that posture of lying down. That reassures people. Later on you can decide, I don't even want to lay down and just carry on meditating all night. Over here, we had some rain a couple of days ago. Hopefully that rain will not come back again for the rest of this retreat. Because we have these beautiful stupas in the courtyards. It's a wonderful thing to do, is at night time, is to lay on your back, lay down on the platform of the stupa and just watch the stars. It's a clear sky. Apparently it's it's a meteor period. And so you can see the stars and maybe a few meteors in the sky. It's beautiful. There's a few places in the world better than Australia to be able to see the Milky Way at night, all those gorgeous stars. So I encourage people to do things like that. You're seeing nature, it's peaceful, it doesn't disturb you at all. And I guarantee you will not see a UFO. If you do see a UFO in the middle of the night, and they come down and say, please take me to your leader, this monk will do. No. Okay, if not this monk, then where's the nun gone? Yeah. Who's the senior nun here today? Okay, so expect some aliens coming into your cottage. But anyway, it's a beautiful experience. And so that you don't feel like sleeping, fine, you don't have to. Trust your body. If your body wants to sleep, it will tell you. And you can go and take it to bed anytime. I like doing that, trusting your body. So anyway, when you get to the fifth stage, it just happens naturally. In your breath, you see the whole body of the breath and it's calming down. They say you calm down that kaya sankhara. It just basically a little bit of information which most people pass over. It's telling you these are the bodily sensations of the breath. Is that the only way you can feel the breath? You've got the bodily feelings, and you've also got the mental feelings of the breath. How your mind knows the breath. And this is where you start getting into the 5th and 6th stage of anapanasati. This is when the breath starts to appear really beautiful, joyful. Is it the breath you're seeing, or what are you seeing? Soon the beauty and the joy become the most powerful feature of the breath. And sometimes people say, well, should I go back to the breath? And it's always the case, no. Just whatever's in front of you, let it be. If your confidence with that experience of the piti sukha, the joy and bliss coming with the breathing, is strong enough, it will stay with you. And it's a much easier object to watch, bliss, than the breath. Actually, it is the breath, but it's just how the mind sees the breath. To give you a simile, it's very hard to find similes. Suppose, who have we got here? Okay, they're not here. Our Anagarikas, there's 2 Anagarikas over at Bodhinyana. They will be ordaining as samaneras soon, sort of next month, novices. And I love it when we have the ordination ceremony, because you see them and they take the 10 precepts. Actually, they don't take the 10 precepts yet. They just ask forgiveness, and they go into the room in the back of the hall, and they get dressed in their brown robes. And you think you should recognize her. But every time I've done these ordination ceremonies, I look at the new monk, novice monk, or look at the new nun, when you have the opportunity to do this over in Dhammasara. They look different. Very different in the brown robes. And because of that, that's the best simile I can have. It's the same person inside, but we're seeing them in a different way. Just like the breath. When you're seeing it through dominantly the mind sense, rather than the feeling sense of the body, they look different. The breath looks far more beautiful. And so and I love this when it's somebody who you know very, very well, becomes like a nun, 10 precepts are just starting off, or like a lay person. Look, for example, you know that one of my attendants who really looks after me so well, Nicholas in the back. Suppose that he becomes a novice, wears brown. How would you feel? I'm not talking about how Nicholas feels, but how would you feel? And sometimes there's so much joy when he's wearing a brown robe, bald head, you look at him and you see something totally different. It gives lots of joy and happiness. I've been doing this for such a long time. This is how I feel. When somebody ordains as a monk or a nun, they look different. And so because of that, in the 5th stage of anapanasati, you're not seeing the breath as a physical feeling anymore. You're knowing the breath as a mental experience. It kind of feels different. And as you do, that's where the piti sukha comes up. It took me a long time to accept the truth of what I was feeling. Because sometimes you tell your friends, what do you do all day? I just watch my breath. Wow, get a life, Ajahn Brahm. There's many more interesting things to do in this world than just watch your breath. But the truth of the matter is, when you get into those 5th and 6th stages of meditation, wow, you're really blissing out. And it's very difficult to describe. What are you doing? Why are you having so much happiness? I'm just watching my breath. Okay, I'll watch my breath now. That's not happy. But your mindfulness is so strong, it's calmed down the physical feelings, and it's starting to open up the mental experiences of the breath. And I already mentioned to you, even like last night, sometimes I don't tell these stories just because they're gross and unusual and thereby fun. That story of seeing my feces in a toilet bowl, that was stunning. And how on earth can you spend 5 or 6 minutes or 10 minutes just admiring the contents of a toilet bowl? Ajahn Brahm, you're really losing your mind. No, I'm not. I'm losing my defilements. You can see beauty in something like that. And the reason was I was not seeing it with my eyes as much as I was appreciating it with my mind sense. That was getting really strong. So because of that, when you get something like your breath, and you have that type of mind, my goodness, you can really appreciate it. Your breath is one of the most beautiful things in the whole world. And to give you another simile so you can understand how you feel when this happens. You know you don't eat whenever you like, it may be just lunchtime, and you start meditating, and you get into such a beautiful experience of your breath coming in and going out just with your mental perception. And it's so beautiful, you don't want to eat. You'd rather stay with the beautiful experience of your breathing than actually going and getting something to eat, even though you're hungry. It's usually the case, because now I go over to Bodhinyana Monastery for lunch, to do my duties over there. But when I used to do these retreats and stay here, there's always somebody in a retreat who wouldn't eat that day. They sit up here and they just meditate. And you ask them afterwards, why didn't you go for lunch? They say, well, I knew it was lunchtime. And I could even, do you have a bell here for lunch? No, you just know it's about 11 o'clock. So they're having too much fun, too much joy, just in watching your breathing, the piti sukha with the breath. And sometimes they're on the edge, they have a choice. And they know, if I get up now and have some lunch, if I don't get up I can carry on watching the breath with the piti sukha. And they say it's an obvious choice. They just carry on sitting, watching the breathing. And because of that, I've seen that other monks have suggested this, and I give this permission here. If you get this really strong piti sukha, or even you take it further, go in the nimittas and the jhana, and it's lunchtime, if you really want, you can get a snack in the afternoon. It's worth bending the precepts so you don't sort of lose the opportunity of enjoying what these deep meditations really are. There's a trick behind that little promise of breaking the rules. That trick behind the promise is, if it really is a jhana, you experience about 11, 12 o'clock. In the afternoon you won't want to eat anything anyway. I say that to the monks. Please correct me if I'm exaggerating. I tell the monks, if there's a meeting, like a talk or lunchtime or something, and if you get into a jhana, don't come out for the meeting. And so a lot of times, monks don't appear for the meeting. And I say, what happened? Did you get a jhana? You know what they answer? Most of the time they say, oh, sorry, I forgot. It's true, isn't it? But that's how much you revere those deep meditations. So don't sort of sacrifice even a rule or something, or lunch or something, you'll never regret it. So anyway, you experience great joy when you're meditating. So should you go back to, that is the breath. Don't think that you've lost the breath. You're seeing the breath through a different sense door. So what do? Just enjoy. Be still, be peaceful. Don't do anything. And you don't need to take notes. This is really important. So you get a pen, so where do I put my pen? That's what disturbs you. One of the fascinating things with these deep meditations, it's when you're in there, you're very still, but your mindfulness is very, very strong. So strong that when you come out afterwards, when it all starts to go back to your normal states of consciousness, you can remember everything clearly. Okay, don't mind saying this. I've got to be very careful, because when you start talking about the deep meditations, as a monk I can tell other monks or other nuns, easy, but I'm not allowed, according to the rules, to tell anyone who's not a monk or a nun about any personal experiences of deep meditation. But I said I know loopholes, and this is one of those loopholes. Many years ago, after a deep meditation, okay, that's good enough. That's why I say deep meditation, because that's just not being specific. If it was for you, I'd say exactly what it was. But after the deep meditation, when you came out afterwards, I was just experimenting, because that was my nature, that's how I grew up as a scientist. And the question was, what's my earliest memory? And that was a brilliant experience, because straight away, immediately, it wasn't a pause. I remembered being a baby in my mother's pram so many years earlier. And one of the reasons I say this is a couple of reasons. One is, after that experience, I remembered it completely. My mindfulness was so strong that you have perfect memory. And the other thing which kind of I didn't really appreciate for years afterwards was that I was sure that was real, it wasn't delusional. I didn't know why those experiences in deep meditation or after deep meditation have a different quality to them of certainty. And only our years afterwards is obvious. It's because the hindrance of doubt had gone. I try to give similes of what doubt is, but this is that sense of certainty. This is not an illusion. And so that was me, as a little baby in my mummy's pram. I had all the details there. One of the things which I remember there was the toys I had to play with as a newly born infant in this world. One of those toys was this little blue, I don't think it was plastic. Plastic wasn't all that common. It was like porcelain pig. Light blue. And my mummy used to call it Porky. Very original, but Porky the pig. And she would rattle it, had some beans inside of it, and make me laugh as a little kid. I remember all of that. And I also remember recognizing my mother by how she smelt. And this was kind of confusing for me, because I never studied sort of biology that much. I was mostly physics and math and a bit of chemistry. But I was telling people about that afterwards. Even my pram, I recognized my pillow by how it smelled, the blanket by how it smelled, not like how it looked. And they thought that was interesting, because when an infant starts to develop their senses, that's the one they develop first. the sense of smell. You're like a little doggy. You recognize everybody by how they smell. And I never knew that before. And after that experience, I knew that perfectly. Yeah, you're right. We're talking about telling professors that they're right. But this is actually how you experience these things. And one of these ladies here, this is an interesting story. She was following my lead. She had some good meditation. She was a very virtuous person. And she got into a deep meditation. It was actually the North Perth Centre. That's how long ago it was. And when she came out, she tried that as well. What's my earliest memory? And what she saw was when she was a baby breastfeeding on her mother's nipple. And she looked at her mother, and that's where the problem started. The person she saw who was breastfeeding her was not her mummy. And that really disturbed her. She came to me in the interview time, special interview please, and the reason was, look, I had this very clear image after meditation, my earliest memory. I was being breastfed from someone who was definitely not my mummy. And then she said, I'm afraid, was I adopted? Did someone else give birth to me and somebody else looked after me? For those infant years of my life, is there something my real mother has not told me? And she was really concerned. Actually, I think you would be. And then afterwards, I told her, look, I knew her mother. We went on pilgrimage to India together. So I told her, the next opportunity you have, when you go and see your mummy, just ask her, now mummy, I had this really strange experience. I was being breastfed by somebody who wasn't you. And see how she reacts. And that's what she did. She told me all about it. The mother said, what are you talking about, darling? Of course I'm your mummy. But I saw this other woman breastfeeding me. And then the mother asked, what did she look like? When you have these experiences in deep meditation, you remember them perfectly. And the doubt is not there anymore. You don't need to make up anything. You know this was happening, it's real. And so she could describe it so perfectly. And the mother was shocked. She said, I am your mother. But when I was young, when you were born, we hired a wet nurse for you. And you just gave this perfect description of your wet nurse, who was there for the first month or 6 weeks of your life. How on earth can you remember her? And I love experiences like that. When people tell you things, there's no way they should have known. The doubt has gone. Clarity is there. And this is what happens when you get into these deep meditations. So in this particular case, it's the 5th and 6th stages of Anapanasati. You're beginning to close down the ordinary 5 senses. And you begin to become aware of that 6th sense, what the mind actually is. And it becomes beautiful, great fun. Great fun, a lot of joy. And that's one of the reasons why I call this kind of the pivot points. Once you can access the mind and the joy of these deep meditations, it kind of hooks you. You want more. Well done, carry on. It will draw you deeper into the deepest of meditations and the deepest of insights. Number one, just in that experience, you realize that rebirth is a truth. It's not a belief. And also that what mindfulness really is. Have you had experiences where you know that what you're seeing is real and you remember them fully? Or some of these other insights. It's a bit of on the edge of tangent, but it's worthwhile saying. Recently, I remember reading this article about a lady over in Hong Kong called Anita Murjani. She was dying of cancer. Her cancer's almost everywhere. And they were giving her another operation. And on the operating table, she died, left her body. Obviously, she came back to life again. That happens very often. But what she remembered some of what the doctors around the operating table were saying. And when she floated off out of her body, she went towards the light. What do you think that beautiful, brilliant light, when all the other five senses die, is? Nimitta. That's why I guarantee each one of you will experience a nimitta. If not beforehand, when you die. And it's much better to experience it beforehand. That's why sometimes I call these talks like How to Die 101. You're learning how to die properly. And so you get training in all sorts of things in life. Isn't it time you got training in how to die? What's going to happen? How you experience it? What you do? So this Anita Murjani was describing, she was a Christian. And so she got drawn into this beautiful light. She saw it, she said it was like merging into heaven, into God's presence. I can understand why people would say that. Even why in the Christian Bible, in the Psalms, it says, "Be still and know that thou art God." I've asked many Christian priests, what does that mean? Be still and know that thou art God. Isn't that a heretical statement? So it can't be, it's in the Bible. But you can understand what it means. When you're really still, experience the nimitta, get drawn into it, and you go into the first bliss state. When you're in there, you can't think. You can know the mind is really still and blissed out. And when she came out again afterwards, that's when the insight which she got was for her the most important problem she had in her life. She thought she was going to die, for sure. And the first thing she said when she came to was to tell the doctors, the cancer is gone, it's cured. And the doctors thought, craziness. She just had a big operation. Anesthesia was messing up her brain. She was correct. She knew the cause of her cancer. And the cause of her cancer was trying to be perfect. She was good enough, but she was always trying to be better. And that stress was the cause of her cancer. And then she got better and then went in front of TV shows and stuff, writing books. But one of the interesting parts of that story was her GP at the time. Her GP at the time was somebody called Brian Walker. And that changed his life. Seeing that and being the GP, she should be dead. But my goodness, what's happened? So it changed his life. So he decided to move from Hong Kong to Australia. And he found a nice little practice as a GP, which needed sort of expanding, over in a small country town in Western Australia of Serpentine. He is now my GP. And he's kind of really helpful. He's also an MP in the Parliament, but the last time I saw him at the opening of the Parliament, and he came out, "Ajahn Brahm, what can I do for you?" He's always telling me, however I can help you. I say, "I'm sorry, you can't help me. I'm just too healthy. I apologize." But I like that kind of weird stories, what happens. But anyway, that same idea of being drawn into this bliss and happiness, it makes the meditation so much easier if you're really enjoying it. And so, that's only the 5th and 6th stages. And the 7th stage of Anapanasati is kind of enjoying the whole of that, what does it say? Chitta Sankhara. And to me that was such an important little statement. Because it says what you're experiencing now is not a Kaya Sankhara, nothing to do with the body anymore. It's to do with the mind. This is how the mind is starting to experience the breath. It's a mind object. And then afterwards, they're calming down that Kaya Sankhara. Actually experiencing both the citta, experiencing both the piti sukha together and calming it down. It's not what you do. If ever you try to do any of these stages, especially calming down the piti sukha, it makes it worse. It doesn't calm down. It means being patient and relaxing. Relaxing more to the max. It gets very still. And then we get to the even juicier parts of Anapanasati. The 9th stage of Anapanasati is you experience the citta. What does it mean, the citta? Citta is the way the Buddha describes the mind. And it's just also, it's a word which I know from my Thai means beautiful. And it was a word which was given to one of the princes of Thailand who invaded North Malaysia once. And when he invaded North Malaysia, he founded a town in North Malaysia called Chitra. Chitra is a Sanskrit form of citta. It does mean beautiful. And you can understand why it means beautiful. If you can experience a citta, it always, wow, it's gorgeous. And this is your citta, the mind. And in the 9th stage of Anapanasati, how do you experience the citta? It's beautiful light, a really clear nimitta. That's like that lady saw, that Anita Murajani. She's drawn into this beautiful light. Then the reason why she thought it was a union with God experience was because her sense of self, thinking, making choice, vanished. Who do you take yourself to be? The knower or the doer? When both of those kind of disappear, you think, well, something's still there. And you think your union with God, union with absolute reality. In Hinduism, union with the Paramatma. A lot of times this is just the interpretation we have as you go deeper into these jhanas, and you find that even that disappears. That can't be anything permanent, essential, not an essence to the universe at all. So anyway, experience the citta in the, what's this now, the 9th stage of Anapanasati. And at there, where's the breath gone? You can't experience the breath anymore. The citta, the mind, is way more powerful. The breath has kind of vanished for you. So far in the background, it hasn't stopped. It's just a long distance away. You can't see it. You don't want to see it. You have this beautiful mind as your object of meditation. And then that nimitta, of course, to make it more stable, more brighter, so it can last longer. That's where you do the, what's it called, the 10th and 11th stages of Anapanasati. You call it Anapanasati because that's just the title where all these things are included. You're going way beyond the ordinary breath. And that's where you develop like the joy. It's actually the joy, but it's also the word confidence in what you're experiencing. The confidence is important because if you've still got some doubts, what the heck is this? it can make you scared, it can make you, look at it this way and that way. You can't really relax to the max. You can relax 90%, but not really to the max. And when you have that confidence, just leave it alone. Then it can get brighter and brighter. And then the 11th stage, samadhahang cittang. Samadhahang is the verb associated with samadhi. So samadhi it. And that's one of the points I mentioned, that Pali word, is because it makes absolutely no sense at all to concentrate that image. That will disturb it immensely. It means to settle it, to bring it to stillness. When it is still, when that image you see, beautiful, has stopped moving, then it can grow even more intense and more bright, more beautiful. What would happen if you saw this beautiful image right in front of you and you're really still? Of course it will suck you in. And any meditator who feels themselves being drawn in to that experience, please don't feel afraid. I totally 100%, 1,000,000% guarantee it's worthwhile entering into. No one, absolutely 0 people have ever died on these meditation retreats. They haven't gone crazy either. They've cured lots of diseases, but more than that, they've created so much joy and also insight into the nature of reality. Go into it. I remember this one monk years ago, as he was on the edge of entering right into these deep meditations. Was afraid of the amount of bliss which was right in front of him. Don't be afraid either. Don't be scared, don't be afraid. You can sometimes imagine just how you would be afraid. Wow, huge bliss. More than you can ever expect. You think, wow, you'd go for it. Would you go for it? No. Well, maybe not me. If I was maybe a monk, maybe. But me? Oh my goodness, this is, above my league. No, please, go for it. And when you go into it, that becomes the first jhana. And there's no reason at all why each one of you sitting here can't experience that. It's only fear and excitement stops you. Or fears that you shouldn't be doing this. You should. Go for it. My job is to show you the way and to convince you it's worth doing. No one has ever complained. Honestly, I will bend over and you can kick me as hard as you like in the bottom if I'm wrong. No one has ever done that. I don't know what else to say. Go for it. And when people get that close and they just don't go that final step, and oh crikey, come on. A few people do. When they do, that makes me really happy. Do you feel you have gratitude for whatever I've taught you? Would you like to give me a present? That's a present I like. People have actually followed the instructions. They've got into these deep meditations. Wow. Yes. That's worth more than anything in the world. They're perfectly safe. I should actually say, as I usually do, it's coming to the end of the talk time now. As I usually say, there's only one danger I've ever seen in entering one of these jhanas. And that is, you lose your hair. You understand why people ordain as monks and nuns. Crikey, what else will you do? And the other, that's only what you actually see, the external results. One of the internal results I've already mentioned to you. And this is from the Pasadika Sutta. We do have copies of those suttas over in the library. You can get it out and leave it out there, and you can see it for yourself if you wish. It says anyone who enters these jhanas, there's only 4 things which can happen to them. The 4 results. If you get addicted to the pleasure of the jhanas. Those 4 results. Soul 1, otherwise known as stream winning. Once returning, non-returning, or full enlightenment. Isn't that what we're supposed to be here for? You want to know what they are? After you experience some of these jhanas, obvious what they are. Personal experience of them. And the wonderful thing is you realize, yes, it is possible for each one of you in this world today. You don't have to wait till the next Buddha comes along. It's here. Go for it. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now I'll leave it up to you. Good place to stop? Okay.